Mafia boss got a shocking call. Please save me. The little girl's voice pleaded through the phone at 2:30 a.m. He recognized the voice. It was his best friend's daughter. She was in trouble, and her stepfather wasn't helping. 14 years ago, he promised her dying father that he'd protect her till the end. Immediately, he called his men and set for war. Vincent Viper Romano's hands were black with engine grease when his phone exploded with sound at 2:30 in the morning. He was deep into rebuilding a 1968 Harley shovelhead, the kind of work that kept his mind quiet when memories got too loud. The phone vibrated across his workbench, spinning like a wounded animal, and the ringtone made his blood freeze. It was Isabella's ringtone, the one he'd assigned years ago when she was still allowed to call him. Before Detective Marcus Blackwood married her mother and systematically erased Vincent from her life. Vincent grabbed the phone with oil-stained fingers, his heart already hammering. Bella, Uncle Viper. Her voice was small, broken, terrified. Nothing like the confident girl he remembered. Please, please, you have to help me. I need you. Please save me. The words hit him like bullets. Where are you? What happened? St. Catherine's Hospital, Louisiana. He hurt me bad this time. Really bad. And he's trying to take me home tonight. Uncle Viper, if I go back with him, I'm not going to survive. Please. Her voice cracked into sobs. You promised my dad. You promised. Vincent was already moving, his entire body switching into combat mode. The same mode that had kept him alive in Baghdad. The same mode that had failed to save his best friend Carlos Santos when that sniper's bullet found its mark. Listen to me, Bella. Listen. Vincent's voice was steel-wrapped in calm. You are not leaving that hospital with him. You hear me? I'm coming. I'm 580 miles away, but I'm coming, and I'm bringing everyone. You stay strong for me. Can you do that? He's a cop, Uncle Viper. He has badges and lawyers, and everyone believes him. Nobody's going to stop him from taking me. I will. Vincent's voice dropped to something lethal. Tell the nurses you want a social worker. Tell them you're afraid to go home. Buy me time. I'm leaving right now. Okay. Isabella's voice was barely a whisper. Uncle Viper, thank you for not forgetting me. The line went dead. Before we dive into this thrilling story, click that subscribe button, comment, and share. Also telling us what time and where you're watching from. Because what happens next is going to prove that some promises are worth going to war for. Now let's get back to the fire. Vincent stood in his garage, staring at the phone in his hand. 14 years. 14 years since Carlos had bled out in his arms in that godforsaken desert, asking Vincent to watch over his baby girl. 14 years since Vincent had looked into 3-year-old Isabella's eyes at the funeral and sworn on everything holy that he'd keep her safe. He'd tried. God knows he tried. Monthly visits when Isabella's mother allowed it. Birthday cards and Christmas presents. Teaching her to ride a bike when she was 7. Being there when she graduated elementary school. But then Linda Santos married Detective Marcus Blackwood 4 years ago, and everything changed. Blackwood didn't want to bike her around his new family. Made that clear from day one. Linda, desperate for stability after years as a military widow, had chosen her new husband over her late husband's best friend. The visits stopped. The calls went unanswered. Vincent respected boundaries, backed off, but never stopped watching from a distance. Now he knew why Blackwood wanted him gone. Witnesses were inconvenient when you were abusing a child. Vincent pulled out his phone and opened the group chat for the Iron Serpents Motorcycle Club. 96 members spread across Texas, Louisiana, and Oklahoma. Brothers and sisters who'd ridden through hell and back together. Who understood that family wasn't just blood, it was choice, loyalty, and showing up when it mattered. His fingers moved fast across the screen. Isabella needs us. Carlos's daughter. Hospital in Louisiana. Her stepfather's a cop who's been hurting her. He's trying to take her home tonight. Rolling out at 5 a.m. This is not optional. This is war. The responses came like thunder. I'm in. Ghost. For Carlos. Angelo. Lock and loaded. Rico. Say the word, boss. Marcus. Within 5 minutes, all 96 members had responded. Within 10 minutes, Vincent's phone was ringing with questions, offers of weapons, people ready to burn the world down for a girl most of them had never met. but they knew Carlos. Every member of the Iron Serpents knew the story of the Marine who'd taken a bullet mint for their president, who died a hero, whose daughter was now calling for help. Vincent made call after call, organizing logistics with military precision. Nina Ghost Martinez, his second-in-command, and a grandmother who could outride men half her age, took charge of supplies. Angelo Doc Russo, who was both a licensed physician and a biker, started gathering medical equipment. Rafael Lawman Torres, the best defense attorney in 3 states and a former Iron Serpent, began pulling legal strings before the sun even rose. "How bad is it?" Ghost asked when Vincent called her directly. She sounded terrified, said if she goes home with him, she won't survive. Vincent's voice was raw. "Linda died 9 months ago. Car accident. Single vehicle on a clear day." Ghost was silent for a moment. "You think he killed her too?" "I think a decorated cop with a dead wife and an injured stepdaughter is exactly the kind of monster who hides in plain sight." Vincent grabbed his leather jacket, the one with Iron Serpent's president patched across the back. "We're riding in hard, Ghost. Full formation. I want every single member there. I want it to be unmistakable that Isabella Santos has protection. The cops won't like it. I don't care what they like. That girl called me begging for her life. Carlos died asking me to protect her. I'm done respecting boundaries and playing nice." Vincent's voice went cold. "Blackwood wanted to keep me away from Isabella. He just made the biggest mistake of his life." By 4:30 a.m., Vincent's shop was transformed into a command center. Maps spread across tables. Routes planned. Legal documents printed. Members arriving on motorcycles. The sound of engines cutting through the pre-dawn darkness like war drums. Vincent stood in front of his crew as the sun started bleeding red across the Texas horizon. 96 bikers in leather and denim, ranging from 25 to 70 years old. Mechanics and teachers. Veterans and nurses. Business owners and artists. People with kids and mortgages and responsibilities. But today they were soldiers. 580 miles. Vincent's voice carried across the parking lot. "We ride straight through. One stop for gas. We stay tight. We stay legal. We don't give any cop a reason to arrest us before we get there." "What's the plan when we arrive?" Rico asked. He was built like a tank and ran a successful security company. "We show up. All of us. We make it clear that Isabella has family. Real family. The kind that doesn't hurt children." Vincent's jaw clenched. Detective Blackwood thinks his badge makes him untouchable. "We're going to teach him that some things matter more than badges." "What if he tries to take her anyway?" someone called out. "Then he'll have to go through 97 of us to do it." Vincent's smile was sharp and dangerous. "And I don't think he's that stupid." Ghost stepped forward, her silver hair pulled back, her eyes fierce despite her 70 years. "For Carlos. For Isabella. For every kid who needs protecting and doesn't have anyone to call. For Carlos." The crew roared as one. The engines started like thunder. 97 motorcycles roaring to life in perfect synchronization. The sound echoed through the empty streets. A promise and a threat rolled into one. Vincent took point, and the convoy fell in behind him. A river of chrome and leather flowing onto the highway as the sun cleared the horizon. They rode in tight formation, a statement of purpose that made other drivers pull over and stare. Mile markers blurred past. Texas gave way to Louisiana. The morning heated up, but the riders didn't stop. They had a deadline and a promise to keep. Vincent's mind raced as he rode. He thought about Carlos, about the brother he'd lost, about 3-year-old Isabella at that funeral, so small in her black dress, about all the birthdays and Christmases he'd tried to be present for, about the last 4 years of forced absence while Blackwood worked in shadows. His phone was mounted on his handlebars, and messages kept coming in. Rafael had filed emergency protective custody papers. Angelo had contacted the hospital's chief of staff. Ghost had organized a legal fund in case they needed bail money. They were ready for war. By 1:45 p.m., they crossed into Louisiana. By 2:30 p.m., St. Catherine's Hospital appeared on the horizon, white and sterile against the bayou landscape. Vincent raised his fist, and the formation tightened. 97 motorcycles moving as one organism, flowing into the hospital parking lot with precision that made security guards reach for their radios. They parked in perfect rows, engines cut off in unison. Then 97 bikers dismounted and stood beside their machines, waiting. The rumble had stopped, but the message was clear. Isabella Santos was no longer alone, and Detective Marcus Blackwood was about to discover that some promises are kept no matter the cost. Vincent walked toward those hospital doors, his boots echoing on the pavement. Behind him, his family waited. Inside, a 17-year-old girl was praying someone would save her. He was about to prove that prayers are sometimes answered by the most unexpected angels. The automatic doors of St. Catherine's Hospital slid open, and Vincent Romano walked through like he owned the place. His boots echoed on the polished floor. Every head in the lobby turned. Conversations died mid-sentence. A mother clutched her child closer. A security guard's hand moved toward his radio. Vincent pulled off his sunglasses and scanned the room with eyes that had seen combat and death and every shade of human cruelty. He spotted the reception desk and moved toward it with deliberate calm. The nurse behind the desk was young, maybe 25, and her hand was already hovering near the panic button under the counter. Vincent saw it and stopped a respectful distance away. "My name is Vincent Romano. I'm here to see Isabella Santos. Room 318. A social worker should be expecting me." The nurse's eyes darted past Vincent to the parking lot visible through the glass doors. 96 bikers stood in formation beside their motorcycles, a silent army waiting for orders. "I need to call security," she stammered. "You can call whoever you want," Vincent said quietly. "But that girl upstairs asked me to come. She's scared and she needs family. I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm here to keep a promise." "Mr. Romano?" A woman's voice cut through the tension. Vincent turned. Dr. Maya Chan stood by the elevator, a clipboard pressed against her chest like armor. She was petite, early 30s, with exhaustion written across her face and intelligence burning in her eyes. She'd been the one who called Isabella's phone from the hospital line, the one who'd bent rules to help a terrified girl reach out. "Dr. Chun." Vincent crossed the lobby in 3 strides. "Thank you for helping her make that call." Maya glanced at the army of bikers visible through the windows. "You brought quite a few people." "I brought family. Everyone out there knew Isabella's father. Carlos Santos saved my life in Iraq. His daughter called me begging for help at 2:30 this morning. So yeah, I brought everyone." Vincent's voice was steel-wrapped in control. "Where is she?" Maya gestured toward the elevator, but her expression was grave. "We need to talk first. There are complications." They rode up in tense silence. When the elevator doors opened on the 4th floor, Vincent immediately clocked the 2 uniformed police officers stationed in the hallway. They were drinking coffee and talking, but their eyes tracked Vincent with predatory awareness. Maya led him to a small consultation room and closed the door. The moment they were alone, her professional composure cracked. "Isabella has a compound fracture in her left arm, 4 broken ribs, extensive bruising on her torso, back, and legs, defensive wounds on her hands and forearms." Maya's voice shook with barely controlled anger. "Mr. Romano, this wasn't an accident. This was systematic abuse over an extended period." Vincent's hands curled into fists. His breathing went shallow. "How long?" "Based on healed fractures visible on her x-rays, at least 2 years, maybe longer." Maya pulled out her tablet, showing him medical scans that made his stomach turn. "He's been careful. Breaks bones that could be hidden under clothing. Never hits the face. Always has explanations ready." Where was everyone? Vincent's voice came out hoarse. "Teachers? Neighbors? Doctors?" Detective Marcus Blackwood is a decorated officer. 15 years on the force. Community hero. Youth football coach. Church volunteer. Maya's words dripped with contempt. "People see the uniform and the awards, and they don't ask questions. And he's smart. Isabella gets clumsy when things are stressful. She falls downstairs when she's grieving her mother. Every injury has a perfect explanation. Until now. Until yesterday when she showed up at school with handprint bruises on her throat visible above her collar. A teacher took photos and called it in before Blackwood could intercept. Maya met Vincent's eyes. He brought her here himself, thinking he could control the narrative. But she told the truth to the ER nurse, whispered your name, and begged us to call you. Vincent's voice dropped to something lethal. Where's Blackwood now? That's the problem. He's been calling every 10 minutes demanding her discharge. He has legal custody. Unless we can prove imminent danger or get a court order, we're legally required to release her to him. Maya checked her watch, and he's on his way here now. Hospital security called him the moment your motorcycles arrived. The floor tilted beneath Vincent's feet. You're telling me I rode 580 miles and he can just walk out with her? Unless your lawyer can work miracles. Yes. Blackwood has discharge papers signed by his personal physician. He has custody documents. He has 2 officers with him as witnesses. Maya's voice cracked. I'm so sorry. I'm trying everything I can, but the system protects him. Vincent pulled out his phone and dialed Raphael. His attorney answered on the first ring. Tell me you have something, Vincent said without preamble. Emergency protective custody filed 30 minutes ago, but the judge won't hear it until tomorrow morning. Raphael's voice was tense. Vincent, I'm doing everything I can, but Blackwood has connections. He's already filed countermotions claiming you're trying to kidnap his stepdaughter. Can I see her? Vincent asked Maya. Before he gets here? Maya nodded. 5 minutes. That's all I can risk. Room 318 was dimmer than the hallway, curtains drawn against the afternoon sun. The girl in the bed looked so much older than Vincent remembered, but those eyes, Carlos's gray eyes, were exactly the same. Uncle Viper. Isabella's voice broke. You actually came. Vincent crossed to her bedside, his throat tight with emotion he couldn't name. I promised your dad, didn't I? Nothing was going to stop me. That's when this 17-year-old girl who'd been trying to survive alone for so long finally shattered. Tears streamed down her face as words poured out in a desperate rush. He killed my mom. I know he did. She was going to leave him. She found a lawyer, started packing. 2 weeks later, she's dead in a car accident on a road she drove every day. Isabella grabbed Vincent's hand with her uninjured arm. The police said brake failure, but she just had the car serviced. Uncle Viper, he did something to that car, and nobody will listen to me. The words hit Vincent like a freight train. Everything clicked into place. Linda Santos hadn't just died in an accident. She'd been murdered, and now Blackwood was trying to eliminate the only witness. How long has he been hurting you? Vincent asked softly. It started small after Mom married him, grabbing my arm too hard, shoving me when he was angry. But after Mom died, it got worse. Way worse. Isabella's voice dropped to a whisper. He said if I ever told anyone, he'd make sure I ended up like her. That cops protect their own, and nobody would believe me anyway. Vincent squeezed her hand carefully. He was wrong. I believe you, and you're not going back with him. I don't care what it takes. He's a detective, Uncle Viper. He knows how to make evidence disappear. He has friends in every courthouse. How are you going to stop him? By making sure he can't do this quietly anymore. Vincent pulled out his phone and started recording. Bella, I need you to tell me everything. On camera. Every detail you remember. Can you do that? Isabella nodded and began talking. She talked about the escalating violence, about being locked in her room for days, about missed school explained away as family emergencies, about teachers who suspected but were convinced by Blackwood's charm and credentials, about her mother's fear in those final weeks, about finding texts on Blackwood's phone to a mechanic about fixing a brake system. Vincent recorded every word, his face carved from stone. They were halfway through when Maya burst into the room, her face pale. He's here. Blackwood just walked into the lobby with 3 other officers, a lawyer, and hospital administration. She looked terrified. Vincent, he's demanding immediate discharge and threatening legal action against anyone who interferes. Vincent stood slowly. Get that recording to Raphael. Now. And Maya, thank you for giving us this chance. He walked to the window, overlooking the parking lot. His crew still stood by their bikes, patient as monuments. Vincent pulled out his phone and sent a single text. Inside. Come ready. Within seconds, all 96 bikers began moving toward the hospital entrance. Not running, not aggressive, just walking with purpose. A wave of leather and denim flowing toward the doors. Vincent turned back to Isabella. Whatever happens next, know this. You're not alone anymore. Your dad asked me to protect you, and that's exactly what I'm about to do. He walked out of room 318 and headed toward the elevator, toward the lobby where a decorated detective waited with badges and lawyers and absolute confidence that his authority was untouchable. Marcus Blackwood was about to learn that some things mattered more than badges. The elevator doors opened and Vincent stepped into a lobby transformed into a battlefield. Blackwood stood in the center like he owned it, tall, fit, perfect uniform, the kind of smile that belonged on campaign posters. 3 uniformed officers flanked him. A man in an expensive suit carried a briefcase full of legal threats. Blackwood's smile didn't reach his eyes when he spotted Vincent. Vincent Romano. I've heard about you. Carlos's old war buddy. Blackwood's voice carried across the lobby, confident and condescending. I appreciate you checking on Isabella, but this is family business. I'm taking my daughter home. Funny, Vincent said, walking forward slowly. She's not your daughter. She's Carlos Santos's daughter. You just married her mother. My wife is dead. I've been raising Isabella alone for 9 months, doing my best in an impossible situation. Blackwood's tone shifted to wounded parent. And now you show up with your gang, trying to intimidate hospital staff. Motorcycle club, Vincent corrected. And we're not intimidating anyone. We're protecting family. The automatic doors slid open behind Vincent. 96 bikers walked through, filling the lobby like a rising tide. Not threatening, not aggressive, just present. A silent statement that Isabella Santos had protection. Blackwood's confident mask finally cracked. Just for a second. Just long enough for Vincent to see the real man underneath. The one who hurt children and killed wives and hid behind a badge. Then another voice cut through the tension. Did somebody order a lawyer? Rafael Torres strode through the entrance, immaculate in his 3-piece suit, briefcase in hand. Behind him, the last of the Iron Serpents filed in, forming a wall of witnesses. Because I've got some very interesting documents here, Rafael continued, his voice carrying across the silent lobby. Starting with emergency protective custody orders, and ending with a recording that's already been sent to the State Police Internal Affairs Division. Blackwood's face went white. The lobby of St. Catherine's Hospital had never been this quiet. You could hear the hum of fluorescent lights, the distant beep of monitors, the shallow breathing of 97 bikers standing absolutely still, waiting for their president's next move. Detective Marcus Blackwood recovered his composure fast, but not fast enough. Vincent had seen that flash of panic, that moment when the predator realized he'd walked into a trap. Rafael Torres. Blackwood's voice dripped with contempt. I should have known you'd be involved. Defending criminals is your specialty, isn't it? Defending the innocent is my specialty, Rafael corrected smoothly, pulling documents from his briefcase. And right now, Isabella Santos needs defending from you. The lawyer beside Blackwood stepped forward, straightening his tie. I'm Richard Volker, Detective Blackwood's attorney. Whatever games you're playing, Torres, my client has full legal custody and medical authority. Unless you have a court order. Funny you should mention that. Rafael held up papers. Emergency protective custody, signed by Judge Patricia Morales 30 minutes ago. Isabella Santos is now a ward of the state pending investigation into allegations of abuse. Blackwood's jaw clenched. Allegations from who? A confused teenager manipulated by bikers with a grudge. Allegations supported by medical evidence, witness testimony, and a recorded statement that's currently being reviewed by Internal Affairs. Rafael's smile was sharp. Did you know your stepdaughter is very articulate when she's not terrified? She gave quite detailed testimony about the last 2 years, including some interesting information about her mother's death. The color drained from Blackwood's face. That's slander. Linda died in a tragic accident that was thoroughly investigated. By your department, your friends, your fellow officers. Vincent's voice cut through like a blade. Convenient how that worked out. The 3 uniformed officers with Blackwood shifted uncomfortably. They weren't stupid. They could read a room. And right now, this room was telling them their fellow cop, might not be the hero everyone thought. This is harassment, Volker said desperately. You have no proof of anything except a troubled teen's accusations and some bikers with intimidation tactics. Actually, Dr. Maya Chun stepped forward, tablet in hand. I have medical records showing healed fractures consistent with long-term physical abuse. I have documentation of injuries that don't match the explanations Detective Blackwood provided. And I have a legal and ethical obligation to report suspected child abuse. She falls a lot, Blackwood snapped. She's clumsy. Always has been. She has defensive wounds on her forearms. Maya's voice was ice. Do you know what defensive wounds are, Detective? They're injuries sustained when someone tries to protect themselves from being hit. One of the uniformed officers took a step back from Blackwood. Then another. The message was clear. They weren't going to be part of whatever this was. Blackwood saw his support crumbling. His face twisted with rage, barely controlled. You think you can do this? You think you can turn everyone against me? I'm a decorated officer. I have friends in every courthouse in this state. I'll bury all of you. You're welcome to try. Vincent's voice was deadly calm. But first, you're going to explain how a 17-year-old girl ended up in the hospital with 4 broken ribs and a compound fracture. And you're going to explain it to internal affairs, not to your buddies on the force. I don't have to explain anything to you. You're nobody. A biker thug with a criminal record. Marine veteran with 2 Purple Hearts, Vincent corrected. But you're right. I'm nobody. That's why I brought everybody. He gestured to the 96 bikers filling the lobby. Teachers and nurses, mechanics and business owners, veterans and grandparents. Every single one of them standing witness to this moment. These people took the day off work, Vincent continued, drove hundreds of miles, dropped everything they were doing because a little girl they've never met called for help. Because her father, my brother, died saving my life and asked me to protect her. And we protect family, Blackwood. We don't hurt them. Ghost stepped forward, her silver hair gleaming under the fluorescent lights. I'm Nina Martinez, retired nurse, grandmother of 5. I took oath to do no harm. And I'm standing here as a witness that this man should not have custody of that child. Angelo moved next. Angelo Russo, licensed physician. I reviewed Isabella's medical files. Those injuries weren't accidents. They were assault. One by one, members of the Iron Serpent spoke up, gave her names, their credentials, their witness statements, each one another nail in Blackwood's coffin. Volker was sweating now, whispering urgently in Blackwood's ear. The detective's perfect composure was shattering like glass. His hand shook, his face flushed red. The mask of the concerned stepfather was gone, replaced by barely contained violence. This isn't over, Blackwood hissed. You think one judge's order changes anything? I'll fight this. I'll prove she's lying. You'll shut your mouth and come with us. 2 plainclothes detectives walked through the entrance, badges displayed. Detective Blackwood, I'm Lieutenant Sarah Pierce, Internal Affairs. We need you to come to headquarters for questioning regarding multiple allegations. This is ridiculous. I'm not going anywhere without my lawyer. Bring him. Lieutenant Pierce's expression was granite. But you're coming. Now, we have testimony from 3 witnesses who say they reported concerns about Isabella Santos to your department over the past year. Concerns that were buried. We want to know why. The second detective, a man with tired eyes and a gray beard, moved to Blackwood's side. Your stepdaughter also mentioned something about her mother's car accident. We're reopening that investigation. The mechanic who worked on Linda Santos's vehicle 2 weeks before her death, he's willing to talk now. Says you paid him cash for some modifications. Blackwood's face went from red to white. I want my lawyer. I'm not saying anything without my lawyer. Smart choice. Lieutenant Pierce nodded to her partner. Let's go. As they led Blackwood toward the exit, he turned back to Vincent with pure hatred burning in his eyes. This isn't over, Romano. You have no idea what you started. Yeah, it is. Vincent's voice was quiet but absolute. Because Isabella's not scared anymore. And she's got 97 people who'll make sure she stays safe. You're done, Blackwood. You just don't know it yet. They took him out in handcuffs. His lawyer followed, phone already pressed to his ear, calling in favors that wouldn't matter. The uniformed officers who'd come with him stood awkwardly, unsure what to do, before quietly slipping away. The lobby erupted in cheers. Bikers hugging each other. Hospital staff crying with relief. Dr. Maya Chun collapsed into a chair, shaking with the adrenaline dump. Vincent turned to Raphael. How long can we keep her away from him? With this investigation? Weeks, maybe months. And if they can prove he tampered with his wife's car, he's never getting custody of anything again except a prison cell. Raphael smiled grimly. You did it, Vincent. You kept your promise. Not yet. Vincent headed toward the elevator. Not until I tell her she's safe. He found Isabella still in room 318, staring at the door with wide, terrified eyes. When Vincent walked in, she nearly collapsed with relief. He's gone, Vincent said simply. Internal Affairs took him. They're investigating everything. The abuse, your mother's death, all of it. You're not going back with him, Bella. Ever. Isabella's face crumpled. She sobbed so hard her entire body shook. Vincent sat beside her bed and held her hand while she cried out 2 years of fear and pain and grief. What happens to me now? She finally whispered. Now you heal, and when you're ready, you come home with me and Maria. Vincent smiled gently. My wife's been wanting to meet you for years. We've got a guest room that's yours for as long as you need it. And you've got 96 aunts and uncles who are going to make sure you're never alone again. Uncle Viper. Isabella's voice was small. Thank you for not forgetting me. Never. Vincent's voice was fierce. Your dad saved my life. Keeping you safe? That's how I honor him. That's how I keep him alive. Outside, 96 bikers waited for their president. They'd ridden 580 miles for a girl they'd never met. They'd faced down cops and lawyers and a system designed to protect the powerful. 3 months later, the Iron Serpents Motorcycle Club rolled into the parking lot of the Louisiana State Courthouse like rolling thunder. Vincent led the formation, with Isabella riding behind him on his bike, her arms wrapped tight around his waist. She wore a leather jacket Ghost had custom-made for her, with family stitched across the back in silver thread. Today was the day Marcus Blackwood would answer for everything. The investigation had moved faster than anyone expected. The mechanic who'd tampered with Linda Santos's brake lines cracked under pressure, providing testimony and text messages proving Blackwood had paid him $5,000 cash. Phone records showed Blackwood had called the mechanic the day before Linda's accident, using a burner phone that was traced back to a purchase he'd made. Isabella's testimony, combined with medical records from 3 other doctors, painted a picture of systematic abuse that even Blackwood's expensive lawyers couldn't spin. 2 of Blackwood's former colleagues came forward with their own suspicions they'd been pressured to ignore. A foster child from years ago, now 23, gave testimony about accidents she'd suffered under Blackwood's brief guardianship. The case was airtight. Blackwood was facing charges of second-degree murder, child abuse, evidence tampering, and obstruction of justice. His lawyers had tried everything. Character witnesses, procedural delays, claims of bias, but nothing stuck. Today, he would be sentenced. Isabella climbed off the bike, and Vincent steadied her. She'd healed physically over the past 3 months. The broken bones mended. The bruises faded. But the real healing was happening inside, and that took longer. Living with Vincent and his wife Maria had been the therapy Isabella needed. Maria, a former social worker who'd retired to help run the motorcycle club's legitimate businesses, understood trauma in ways that textbooks couldn't teach. She'd given Isabella space to grieve her mother properly, to process the betrayal and abuse, to learn what a safe home felt like. Ghost had taught Isabella self-defense, not just physical techniques, but the mental strength to never be a victim again. Angelo had connected her with a therapist who specialized in abuse survivors. Raphael had walked her through every legal step, making sure she understood her rights and her power. And the entire Iron Serpents MC had wrapped her in a family she never knew she needed. 96 aunts and uncles who showed up for school events, taught her to work on motorcycles, took her to movies, and reminded her daily that she was valued, loved, and protected. You ready for this? Vincent asked as they walked toward the courthouse steps. Isabella nodded, her jaw set with determination that reminded Vincent painfully of Carlos. I need to see his face when they send him away. I need him to know he didn't break me. The courtroom was packed. Reporters lined the back wall. Linda Santos's family sat on one side, their faces etched with grief and rage. The iron serpents filled 3 entire rows, a silent show of support that made the bailiffs nervous until Raphael assured them they were simply family attending a sentencing. Blackwood was brought in wearing an orange jumpsuit, his hands cuffed. The decorated detective who'd once walked with authority now shuffled like a broken man. His eyes swept the courtroom, landing on Isabella. She stared back, unflinching. He looked away first. Judge Patricia Morales entered, and the room rose. She was a stern woman in her 60s, with a reputation for being tough but fair. She'd reviewed every piece of evidence personally, and her expression suggested she had strong opinions about what she'd read. Mr. Blackwood, you've been found guilty on all counts, Judge Morales began, her voice carrying across the silent courtroom. Before I pass sentence, does the victim wish to make a statement? Isabella stood. Vincent started to rise with her, but she shook her head. I need to do this alone. She walked to the front of the courtroom with her head high. When she spoke, her voice didn't shake. You try to make me believe I was worthless, that I deserve the pain, that nobody would believe me if I told the truth. Isabella's eyes locked on Blackwood. You killed my mother because she was going to leave you. You hurt me because you could, because you had a badge and power and you thought that made you untouchable. Blackwood opened his mouth, but his lawyer grabbed his arm, silencing him. But you were wrong, Isabella continued, her voice growing stronger. I'm not worthless. I did not deserve what you did to me. And people did believe me. Not because I'm special, but because there are good people in this world who keep their promises, who protect instead of hurt, who use their power to help instead of destroy. She turned to where Vincent sat, her eyes shining with gratitude. My father saved his best friend's life in Iraq. That friend promised to protect me, and he kept that promise. He rode 580 miles with 96 people to make sure I was safe. That's what real strength looks like. That's what real family does. Isabella turned back to Blackwood. You took my mother from me. You hurt me for 2 years, but you didn't win. Because I survived. I'm going to finish high school. I'm going to college. I'm going to become a social worker and help other kids like me. And you? You're going to rot in prison knowing that you failed to break me. The courtroom was silent except for quiet crying. Even some of the reporters were wiping their eyes. Judge Morales cleared her throat. Thank you, Miss Santos. That was very brave. She turned to Blackwood, and her expression went cold. Mr. Blackwood, you were given power and authority to protect your community. Instead, you used it to terrorize a child and murder your wife. You were a disgrace to your badge and a danger to society. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. For the murder of Linda Santos, I sentence you to 25 years to life. For child abuse, an additional 10 years to run consecutively. For evidence, tampering, and obstruction, 5 years consecutive. You will serve a minimum of 40 years before being eligible for parole. The gavel came down with finality. Blackwood's lawyer immediately started talking about appeals, but everyone in that courtroom knew it was over. The evidence was too strong. The testimony too damning. Marcus Blackwood would die in prison. As they let him out, Blackwood looked at Isabella one last time. She smiled, not with happiness, but with the quiet satisfaction of someone who'd won a war she never asked to fight. Outside the courthouse, the Iron Serpents celebrated, not with wild parties or violence, but with relief and justice served. Isabella stood on the courthouse steps, surrounded by 97 people who'd become her family, and felt truly free for the first time in years. Vincent pulled her into a hug. Your dad would be so proud of you. I know, Isabella whispered. I felt him in that courtroom. I felt him helping me be strong. 6 months later, Isabella stood in the garage of Vincent's custom shop, covered in grease and smiling. She discovered she loved working on motorcycles, loved the precision and the problem solving. Ghost was teaching her to ride, starting with a smaller bike but with plans to upgrade as Isabella's skills improved. She'd finished her junior year of high school with honors, made friends who didn't know her as the abuse victim, but just as Bella, the cool girl with a biker family. Started volunteering at a youth center, helping kids who needed someone to believe them. On the anniversary of the day, she'd called Vincent at 2:30 a.m. The entire Iron Serpent's MC threw her a party. Not to celebrate trauma, but to celebrate survival. To celebrate the family they'd built and the promise they'd kept. Raphael announced he was starting a legal fund specifically for abuse victims who couldn't afford representation. Angelo partnered with local hospitals to create protocols for identifying and reporting suspected abuse. Ghost organized self-defense classes for at-risk teens. The Iron Serpents became known not as a dangerous motorcycle gang, but as protectors. When other desperate calls came in, a woman fleeing domestic violence, a kid being bullied to the point of suicide, an elderly person being financially exploited, the club showed up, not with violence, but with presence, resources, and the absolute certainty that they would stand between the vulnerable and those who'd hurt them. Isabella's story spread. Local news picked it up. Then regional, then national. The girl who was saved by 97 bikers became a symbol of how community and loyalty could overcome even the most corrupt systems. On Isabella's 18th birthday, Vincent gave her a gift. A framed photo from that day at the hospital. 97 motorcycles lined up in perfect formation, a show of force that had saved her life. This, Vincent said, his voice thick with emotion, is what your father gave me. The understanding that family is worth fighting for. That promises are sacred. That one person standing up can change everything. Isabella hung the photo in her room, right next to a picture of her father in his Marine uniform. Two heroes who'd saved her in different ways, but with the same love. Years later, Isabella Santos graduated with a degree in social work. She specialized in helping abuse victims navigate the legal system. She worked with Raphael's legal fund, with Ghost's self-defense programs, with Angelo's medical protocols. She became the voice for kids who couldn't speak for themselves. And every year on the anniversary of that 2:30 a.m. phone call, she rode with the Iron Serpents. 97 motorcycles, sometimes more as the family grew, rolling through Louisiana, a reminder that some promises are kept forever. Marcus Blackwood died in prison 8 years into his sentence. Isabella didn't attend his funeral. She was too busy helping a 15-year-old girl whose stepmother was hurting her, showing up with legal help and a community of bikers who understood that protection was the highest form of love. If this story moved you, if you felt every moment of Isabella's journey from victim to survivor to warrior, then do this right now. Smash that subscribe button because we're telling stories that matter. Stories about real heroes who don't wear capes. They wear leather. Hit that like button, drop a comment telling me what part hit you hardest, and share this with someone who needs to know that help exists even in the darkest moments.